Hi parents. So continuing with the video from my last left off. So I was talking about basically taking the other bottle and cutting the nose cone with about 4.5 inches from the top of the bottle, right? So you cut that nose cone out, and then you also I talked about also cutting off this nozzle portion at around this area, right, all around, so it will basically remove this thick portion out. Now we need to cover this, that hole, which you got off cutting off the nozzle, right, with something which is kind of a hemisphere, right. It cannot be pointed. So in the beginning video I had mentioned that you cannot have a pointed nose cone, so it has to be like a curved, so that if you put a bottle cap on top of the curved surface, right, if you put a bottle cap on this, the top of this curved surface should not touch the inside of the bottle cap. So that's what they say in the rules, right? So what we do is that we take a tennis ball, ping pong ball, right, and you cut it into half actually. So if you look at the ping pong ball, some balls you might see, and even this one might have like a line through the middle, right, where the two halves join. So you can kind of cut off along that line and then get the one half, right? And that's exactly what we used. And ping pong forks are pretty sturdy, the material. So you put that hemisphere on top of that hole, which you got, after cutting off the nozzle of the bottle, right? So you put that on top. Now you perfectly aligned so that the top of the hemisphere kind of points perfectly up, right? It's not kind of slanted or like we're pointing in a different direction. So then what you do is that you attach it with again with duct tapes, right? So I used like a 1/2 inch duct tape, with 1/2 inch width and probably about an inch and a half, 2 inches long, about 3 of them, right? So I put one, then 2 here, and then the third one here, right? So that kind of attaches securely, and make sure that you stick the tapes cleanly, so there are no a lot of folds, and there are no air gaps, so that the draft the drag will not increase, and it will prevent the rocket from going up smoothly, or if there are there are wrinkles or air gaps, the rocket might go sideways and all that. So you don't want that. Actually, make sure that you attach the tapes cleanly. Now the next portion is actually to attach the nose cone with the propulsion chamber, and the way we are going to do that is using the nylon thread. Remember the nylon thread? We actually talked about the mason thread, which you get it at Home Depot, right? And try to get the thinnest one. This come with certain sizes. I don't know exactly what size it is, but if you go there, there's a section where they keep all these mason threads, and you take the thinnest one actually, right? And the advantage is that nylon threads won't get entangled easily, so that's why we are using nylon threads actually, right? So take the nylon thread, and then you need to take a piece of thread, cut out a piece of thread which is about 20 to 24 inches long, right? So take one piece about 24 inches, 2 feet long, and then one end of the thread you would attach along the edge of the nose cone, right? So it will go along the outside through the edge, right? So it might need some, it's a little bit tricky to stick, but with some help you should be able to do it, right? Where you take like probably about a 1/2 inch width duct tape, and then you put half or a little more than half of the duct tape over the thread, right? And attached to the edge of the outer edge of the nose cone, right? You go around it, right? And then you fold it inside, right? Make sure you fold it inside so that it's a strong attachment, right? So the thread goes around the edge, right? And then the tape above, and then the remaining portion of the tape you fold it inside, so it's kind of a secure, tight fit actually. So right, that's one. So make sure that the important thing is to make sure the thread goes around, right, so that it doesn't come off when the rocket comes down, because you have to use it for multiple launches, right? So we don't want it to come out. Similarly, the other end of the thread, right, you again make sure that it goes around the propulsion chamber, and the place where you attach would be the place where the bottle kind of curves, the curving ends, and it kind of starts the straight part of the bottle. So right at the place where the bottle becomes straight, right, that's where you attach the thread. And again, it goes around the bottle, and then you take another 1/2 inch piece of tape, and then you attach it on top of the thread, right, with the thread being in the middle, and then the other both sides going and attaching onto the bottle securely, right, and neatly. So that's how, pretty straightforward, right? So that's how you attach the nose cone to the propulsion chamber. So that kind of completes the nose cone part of it. And then now we move on to the next one, which is the parachute, right? And for parachute, as I said, we'll be using a standard garbage trash bag, right? And don't buy the cheap ones which are very thin. There are some medium or good quality ones, where they are like normally 30 gallons or 40 gallons or whatever. I think it should be at least minimum of 30 gallon or more, right? So that we get a big enough parachute. So you can buy a pack of 10 or 15, right? And then use that. You get it in Walmart, right? So you get the trash bag. You spread it open, and then you need to cut a circle out of the trash bag, because your parachute is going to be like a circle. And then when it's kind of the bottle comes down, it's kind of comes like an umbrella, right? So you want to cut out a circle. So normally the size which I use for parachutes for our water rockets are anywhere between 30 inches to 45 inches in diameter, right? You could go more, but the problem is that the weight of the parachute is going to be more. It won't probably fold nicely and fit inside the nose cone, because so much only space you have got inside the nose cone, right? And then if it's less than 30 inches, then it's kind of small. It might fit nicely and snugly, but and it might come open, but you don't have enough area, right? So you don't have enough drag when the water rocket is coming down. So what I usually went with last year is 30 to 45 inches. But if you feel there are other sizes, bigger sizes you can fit in with a different nose cone design, go for it. Actually, again, this is all things you can experiment on, actually, right? And the best thing is, like, people try out with different models, actually, if possible. You don't have to go with the what I'm saying. It's just kind of a guidance. So I cut out like a 30-inch. So for now, for the starting rocket, I used a 30-inch diameter circle of trash bag. So I kind of used some sort of, like, I used this pens. Let me show you as the way to make kits cut circles. So give me a second. It's kind of in time to here. So if you can see, so there is like I have a thread which is like probably 15-inch long, right? And then which is the radius, right? Half of the diameter, because our parachute diameter is going to be 30 inches. So I want a radius of 15 inch. So I was kind of telling kids, how you draw a circle, right? So you have two pens, right? And then the thread between the pens is about 15 inches long. And then you kind of attach one pen at a point. You mark a point on your trash bag, right, at the center point of the trash bag. And then, use the other pen, to kind of draw around a circle, right? Kind of a neat way to draw a circle on the trash bag, right? So you can do other ways also. Just something which I told the kids, to easy way to draw a circle. And then you use a scissor, obviously a scissor to, cut around the line, and you get a perfect circle, parachute. Then what you do is that you need to actually attach a piece of tape on the edge of the parachute. right? So there should be 8 pieces attached equidistant, right? Now you could attach less, 6 pieces, which might reduce the weight a little bit, because you're taking out a couple of threads, all right? But I would go with, then the problem is that it won't really be like an umbrella, because you need at least 8 threads. So you attach 8 pieces of tape, actually, your duct tape. So take out maybe a 1-inch duct tape, right, and length, and then 1/2 inch width, and then put 1/2 inch on one side and then fold it over to the other side, right? So that's what the reason why is that we want to actually tie it with the thread, and we don't want to tie the thread directly to the trash bag, right? Obviously, and after a few, if you do that, after a few launches, the thread is going to come apart, right? Because it's going to tear. So you don't want the tear to happen. That's why we are attaching the duct tape. You can even go with a smaller piece of duct tape to reduce some weight, but I kind of used like an inch, or a 3/4 of an inch actually, and then fold on both sides, right? And this is where I was kind of talking about the single hole punch. So you want to put a hole, and it's kind of hard to poke around with your cutting tool. So it's better to use that single hole punch. It'll put a clean hole so that you can easily take the thread through the hole, right? So that's why that single hole punch comes in. And it's kind of a nice exercise for kids to actually kind of put punches, put holes using the single hole punch onto the tape, right? So you make sure that it's not too much to the edge, it's a little bit inside, and then you put that hole punch. So right, so I have like 8 different tapes on the edge of the, and they all should be equidistant, right? And now you should be able to figure out how to make them equidistant actually. Now once that is done, the next part is to tie the threads, right? So how long should be the thread, right? So that's another question like people ask, because when you have the if you can see here, right, when the parachute is floating, you need to have some wiggle length so that the parachute can nicely kind of open up, right? So you have to have some length for the thread, but it should not be too long as well, right? Because if it's too long, the chance of threads getting entangled is more, and the weight is more, and all that, right? If it's too short, then the problem is that it won't be able to open up to the full extent, right? So you get the idea. So the distance what I use for each of those 8 threads is about the size, the diameter of the parachute, plus another probably 6 to 8 inches, right? So for example, in this case, the diameter of the parachute is 30 inches, right? So each thread among that 8 threads, right, it will be about 36 inches long. So you have 8 threads of 36 inches long, right? And you attach one end of the thread to the parachute and join all. So you attach all the 8 threads around, and then you join the other ends of all those threads, right? With a knot, and then connect them together, right? Make sure that they're kind of spread out so that they are not tangled at the time itself you are attaching, right? And then then what you do is that you keep that knot on top of the propulsion chamber, and then you fix it with like 2 pieces of sellotape, and that should be good enough. You take like about 1.5 to 2 inches sellotape with 1/2 inch width, and then you have a knot, right? And then you put the sellotape on top of the knot, right? 2 sellotapes, it will perfectly fit actually, right? It won't come out actually, I can guarantee you that. There are other ways to fix, you can use other small plastic stuff, and then you can attach those plastic things over to the propulsion chamber. But this is simple enough method which I use actually, right? The good thing is that you can easily take it out and replace it with another parachute and all that. So just 2 pieces of tape which goes over the threads over the knot on the other side, right? You can see the knot visible so that you won't come out. So that's how you attach. So that kind of completes the attaching the parachute, building the parachute and attaching the parachute. Hope that was clear. Then the last final thing, right? Just I was talking about, you having a cigarette lighter, right? So you might be wondering why that is. So when you tie the knots on to the edge of the parachute, right, you might want to leave a little bit of thread out there, because the problem with nylon threads are like, if you have a knot like this, and I'm not good at tying knots, it can come undone easily, right? Unlike cotton threads and all, it doesn't have that tightness, that grip, right? Because it's kind of smooth, right? That's why it's good that it doesn't do knots also. But the problem is that if you tie like this, it might come undone, right? So what I do is that I just kind of take it like this, and then have this neat way of like just burning the edge, right? You need to do it carefully, right? This is not for kids, so just kind of burn them, right? So that you kind of get like a like a blob, right? Blob of burned nylon, so that it won't come undone, right? So that's kind of the idea, right? So I think you got the picture. So that's kind of right. So you just have a if I do a close up, right? So that's the reason why I have that actually. So that way, no matter what, if you pull this, like, because there's going to be some tension when the rocket is coming down, right? So it won't come out of the the knot actually, right? So that's the reason. And you do that for all the 8 threads actually. So that kind of completes the construction of the parachute. And then all that we have to do is actually kind of fold the parachute and put it inside the nose cone, right? Which actually we can do when we are actually about to launch, or we can kind of do that earlier, if you want to do that. So there are some folding tips which you can use to fold the parachute, and let me show you one of them which I kind of use actually. So let me just move this out. Sorry, because I am doing this myself, so things are not. So what you can do is that you can kind of like open up the parachute, right, and then make it into half, like a semicircle, right? And then what you do is that you kind of fold like quarter portion of it, right? And this is not very neat because I'm kind of doing it with one hand. So, but when you do it with both hands, right, it'll come good. So then the next half, right, first into a semicircle, then like half of it folded like this, and then the next half folded like this, right? So it kind of is becoming like a triangle. And then what you do is that you just fold it like this, right? And then you kind of one more fold, and these are all kind of should be like very lightly. You should not pat it down and make it very what do you call compact. Try to be light folds, and then you kind of fold it like one like this, and then the other one like this, like a zigzag, right? Like a zigzag kind of a fold, right? So you get the picture. So now here you fold like this, and then you fold like this. Bear with me because I'm kind of doing this with one hand, so it's a little not very clean, but when you do it, it'll come very clean, right? So you kind of did this very compact. Maybe just fold it like one more time if you wanted to make it like a little more compact to fit it inside, and then you wrap it around the thread, right, the nylon thread, right? So you get the idea. So then you place it on top of your water rocket, and then you put the nose cone on top of it, so that the entire parachute kind of goes inside, right, with that good folding, right? It's not kind of spread out. When you fold it with the help of your kids, it'll come good. And then you put the nose cone, and then you put a small tape connecting the nose cone and the propulsion chamber, so that it doesn't come undone, right? Because of the pressure of the parachute, so that you can just use it during the launch time, right? So that you take off the tape during the launch time, so that the nose cone can come out. So, and you just keep it, and then we will have the rocket probably once you're complete, mostly next week, and we will launch it. Hope it was helpful. Again, I know this is not perfect, kind of done things without really building them, but I hope it was pretty self-explanatory. And if there are any questions, feel free to call me or reach out to me by email, right? And one other thing is that when you before we fold, right, one of the things we do is on the parachute is put some talcum powder, right? It's standard, like any kind of talcum powder would be good. That will help the parachute to open up, right? Not stick, because again, plastic, there's a tendency for the plastic to stick. So you don't want that. So kind of apply some talcum and spread it around. Do it on both sides, and then then do the fold, which I shown earlier. So that should be good, and hopefully the nose cone will come out, and then the parachute will deploy, and then the kids will have fun. Hope to see everyone at the launch site, and I'll send the details on when we are launching, because we need some time when there's no wind actually. So we'll do it in either on we have to do it on a weekend, because we need the whole day to find out a good slot, right? So we'll do it either on Saturday or Sunday based on everybody's convenience. So look out for some emails on those schedules. Thank you. Bye.